Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Media Talks TV with your host Tony J. If you're new here, click the like, hit share, and subscribe and hit the notification bells for more videos. We got 73 subscribers and we're on the path to 100 subscribers. So stay tuned. But I wanted to do this special video today, talk about the attempted assassination of Donald Trump, a former President Trump. And this came up Saturday after I was editing a previous video. I was up all night and I just dropped one of my previous videos. And the funny thing about this whole ordeal, I was asleep in the afternoon when I got the news that Donald Trump was shot at a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. And, for me, to be honest, it really wasn't a surprise. I didn't see it as a surprise, and many of you probably didn't see it as a surprise because for a long time, all of the rhetoric that we've been hearing about Donald Trump has led up to all of this. And, you know, whether you believe it or not, this situation is going to have a tremendous impact on an election and determining the election, whether you believe it or not. This incident is an overshadowing issue now, and I think it's not going to go anywhere. For the last 3.5 weeks, we've been talking about the mental fitness of President Biden, and that was the overwhelming story for the Democratic Party, whether or not President Biden was going to step down. At the time, I thought, well, the Democratic Party is kind of turning against itself. You know, and in some cases it has. I mean, if you look at the Democratic Party right now, you got younger elected officials, which is, Ocasio-Cortez and Jasmine Crockett and all those guys. And then you have your older ones, the older block, which is your Dianne Feinsteins and your Nancy Pelosi's. Those are that are in their 80s. Really, some even touching their 90s. The Democratic Party right now is really in a crisis mode. You have one presidential candidate who seems not to want to turn over power. And then to add insult to injury, you have the whole Bob Menendez scandal. That's now really another loss crisis point for the Democratic Party. So you're having these problems with Democratic elites being involved in some type of corruption, bribery, scandals. And as much as we talk about Trump and the Republican Party and all these things, I really don't see why the Democratic Party likes to stand on moral platitudes as they're the righteous party out of all of them. because every political party has crooked individuals. Now, you might say, oh, you hear all this rhetoric about Trump. Oh, Trump has 37 indictments, 37 convictions. He's a convicted felon and all this bullshit. But then at the same time, you have Bob Menendez being convicted on bribery, and he's been in office for how many years? He's one of those elite senators from New Jersey. And yet you don't hear the news really going in on Bob Menendez the way that they go in on Donald Trump. What happened at that rally was kind of a flashpoint. Of course, that's the way I see it. It was a flashpoint for this country. Whether you're a believer in God or not, this all could have been catastrophic. It would have been worse because it would have been the first, really, since the attempted assassination of President Reagan, since we saw an attempted assassination. And we all know what happened when President Reagan was assassinated, how it brought the country back together. It galvanized an entire nation. His assassination attempt led to what was called at that time the Reagan Revolution, where there were both Democrats and Republicans voting for Ronald Reagan to give him a two-term presidency. And he won that. And, you know, this is the first time in a long time that maybe a lot of Democrats are starting to defect from the party and become independent. And this event might unfortunately give Trump the election. And I already said it looking at that video. I said, okay, he's already won the election. Because there's no way Biden can spin this and get away from it. There's no way that this can't turn into something that just gives him the entire election. The numbers are shifting in his favor at this point. And after the Republican National Convention, there's just going to be more people going in the Republican direction. Because you got to admit, to be honest, and this is my honest opinion, whether you are a Democrat or Republican, the truth is that the Democratic Party at this point in the last 8 years have really been on the defensive about not allowing Trump in office. And every time they do this, he ends up winning. Every time you put out a political ad about how bad he is, every time you try to say something about his family, every time you do something to this man, he ends up winning. Sometimes it's best to let sleeping dogs lie. And this is the type of advice they should have taken from the start. When it was Hillary Clinton running against Trump, we started seeing all the fear tactics and all the boogeyman tactics about Trump being this and Trump being that and Trump being a rapist and Trump being a sexual harasser and people saying sexual rapist in chief and all types of gaffes that have been in the media for a very long time. And the biggest problem and the biggest issue is right now he's winning. And some of the tactics that the Democratic Party has used, like fear and scare tactics and putting out political ads, trying to scare the hell out of the independent voters, is not working no more. You know, it might have worked in 2020 because 2020, we had a pandemic, but the pandemic is over. So you can't use that anymore. And the Democrats are scrambling and panicking because the same old tactics that they're using isn't working any. People are becoming more independent. People are defecting from the Democratic Party because they don't like what they're seeing. And me personally, I haven't been a Democratic. I haven't been a loyal Democratic voter since 2012. Last Democratic election that I really truly voted in as a registered Democrat was Obama's second term. And I decided personally to become an independent voter and register as an independent because I didn't like what I was seeing in the Democratic Party. One minute they're for gay marriage, or what? Well, actually, one minute they're against gay marriage, and then the next minute they're for gay marriage. If you look through the videos, if you look through the thing about Joe Biden too, and this is where the crucial point kind of gets problematic. Joe Biden wasn't a real supporter of gay marriage. And he wouldn't be. Why? And think about it. Because he's Catholic. Joe Biden has been Catholic, a Roman Catholic for a long time. And because of his stance on certain policies, there was a time that Joe Biden was against gay marriage. Now he's for gay marriage. Now that because the Democratic Party changed their position on gay marriage, now he's for gay marriage. And it's always been this thing about the Democratic Party where they would switch their stands on certain policies. One minute they're against it, one minute they're for it. And then they will sit there and blame the opposing side and say, well, they're against progress. They're against moving the country forward. And every time we get into these elections, what I saw under the Obama administration, every time we got through an election cycle, we'd always hear about the Republicans blocking bills, blocking progress. Oh, they always try to, if they couldn't get anything done, if the Democrats couldn't get any bills passed, they'd blame it on the Republicans. They'd always sit there and say, well, the opposing side, I sent my bill to the House or the Senate, and the Senate is majority Republican, and the Republicans won't pass my bills. But of course, when they can't get anything done, they like to play the blame game. And then when election time comes around, then they want to go to the black churches, they want to go to the black community and ask for the black vote, and then they pass out all these flyers And I remember there was an election in 2012, and I remember when the voter registration drives would knock on our doors, they would put leaflets in our mailbox. And I remember I got a leaflet one time, and it was kind of like a postcard, and it said, "Don't take your vote for granted," and then it had a picture of the Edmund Pettus Bridge. And I remember, like they use, like I said, they use these scare tactics when Democrats come around for election year. When it comes to black folks, they always knock on doors and they put leaflets. Don't take your vote for granted. Don't, NAACP, knock on doors to register people to vote. And then they did this one campaign one time. Either they put a picture of Dr. King on the front of the leaflet, or they put the Edmund Pettus Bridge on the postcard, on a postcard that they send out to make sure people register to vote. I got sick and tired of that all the time, like just trying to remind me not to take my vote for granted and register to vote. And then every time I register to vote, and then I go to vote as a registered Democrat, nothing really changes. And it's the same cycle over and over again. And people are now getting tired of these Democratic elected officials always coming around trying to scare people. But then when we give them another 4 years or another 2 years in the House or the Senate, they end up not getting anything done, or they hold on to their jobs for over 30 fucking years, and their districts stay the same or their districts get worse. And then they play politics when election time comes around, and they do the same shit over and over again. If there was any party that was more corrupt and vicious, it has to be the Democratic Party. But I'm not saying that as to say that I'm also for the Republican Party as well. I'm not for either party. People need to start focusing and thinking about policy. And I vote according to policy, not to somebody's party affiliation. And if the Democrats got good policies, then I will vote Democrat. But if the Democrats haven't delivered on anything, then I'm gonna have to go to the opposing side. So that was my justification for becoming independent, because I didn't like party politics. I don't play party politics, and I don't allow people to talk to me about their political affiliations with me, because I feel like that's a private position that should only be shared between you and the ballot box. And this goes back to the whole issue about why Joe Biden isn't going to win this year and this time around. Because people are getting tired of the scare tactics. You have to earn my vote, and you have to convince me why I should vote for you. I'm not going to vote for you just because that other guy is horrible. I'm not going to vote for you because somebody said, well, look at this is what he said about black jobs. And they're trying, Joe Biden always try to cash in on that saying black jobs. But a majority of the time, the jobs that we have are janitorial or landscaping, and those are being taken up by people that don't look like us. But it's a majority of the jobs that we do in this country. So I don't know how somebody could be offended at that, you know. But the tide right now is turning in the United States right now. And I feel as though it's important to say to my audience not to allow the media to sway your opinion about somebody. That you focus on policy and you focus on who has your best interest? Because at the end of the day, you know, it's not about who's the party of inclusion, it's about what they do with their policies. And one of the things that I'm getting tired of, especially with the Democratic Party, because I feel like the Democratic Party has kind of fell off the rails trying to go after Trump. You know, it's kind of like a boxer. If you focus too much on trying to hit your opponent, trying to lay down as many blows as possible, they usually try to figure you out and they tire you out, and then you end up losing. And then when you're down, then they hit you and knock you out, and then they win. And that's essentially what the Democratic Party is at right now. Their crisis point is that they're over they overplayed their hand. They had the upper hand, but they overplayed it. And now Trump has tapped into a weak point and is now tapping into the frustrations of individual Americans who are not registered Republicans or registered Democrats. And those are the people who are ultimately going to decide this election, whether you believe it or not. People are getting sick and tired of the whole trans visibility pronoun mentioning. Like I'm getting tired of that. People being bullied and maligned if they don't get somebody's pronouns right. People getting sick and tired of that. People are getting sick and tired of the whole idea of, trying to push your history in other people's faces, trying to make people feel like, all these buzzwords. Like, liberals have created a whole bunch of buzzwords like woke, like you know, it it's just like it's gotten to a point where the party itself has become intolerable towards people who may not understand other marginalized groups. And it's okay to educate them about that, but it's not okay to bully and mock people. All this stuff in the media with bad built butch body, calling Marjorie Taylor Greene that, and it becoming a viral sensation, like this ping pong match between both political parties, but not anything is getting done. And then the squad with Jamal Bowman pulling the fire alarm, like, and it's just people are getting sick and tired of seeing this shit all over the place. Like, this party, they want to claim their victims and then turn around. They want to ask for another term in office as if they earned it. And it is this level of democratic entitlement that you don't have to work for your vote, or you don't have to earn it in order to get people to vote for your side. So then you use the bully tactics in the bully pulpit to try and scream down on the opposing side. And that is not how you get things done in Washington or in the United States at all. And people are grown tired of the Democratic Party just on that base. You know, some things I agree with the Democratic Party, and then other things I just don't. And I have a low threshold and a low tolerance for it. And I've just started to figure it out by myself what's gone wrong with that, the party politics, and a lack of balance and tolerance with that group. But it's also, as I've stated before, the media is driving this divide between the citizens. And this is why this happened on Saturday, because of the campaigning and the dangerous rhetoric. And people act like none of this was going to come to pass, that the stuff that the politicians were saying wasn't going to come to pass. Now, I'm not saying that Donald Trump didn't steer the hornet's nest, but there was also people on the other side that were staring the hornet's nest. And I'm not going to even repeat those things on this broadcast because I don't feel like it's necessary. You see the videos out there, you look it up. But this rhetoric has been going on for a long time, since 2017, since Trump took office. Then you saw the whole bullshit with the Me Too movement that I definitely don't agree with. And then the whole Me Too movement and people coming forward saying they were sexually assaulted without due process, trying to eviscerate due process when it comes to the sexual assault cases that happened 20 or 30 years ago, putting people in jail for supposed petty things that happened 30 or 40 some odd years ago. Just all of that stuff came out of the whole Trump movement, came out of this hatred for Donald Trump. And then now they decided to eviscerate other people with their rhetoric and bully people into voting for them. And it's getting tired now. People are tired of the liberal crap that's going on for the last 8 years. Even I'm tired at this point. You have liberal issues in California with Gavin Newsom. You have liberal issues in Washington, D.C. itself with the whole thing of shoplifting and carjacking. And, you look down ballot, you see all these Democratic politicians, they have become more and more permissive of crime in their own districts and in their own cities, not cracking down on intravenous drug use, not cracking down on shoplifting and carjacking and killing. And believe it or not, in Baltimore, some of this shit is happening even in my backyard. And I'm saying, like, why should I continue to vote for a political party that doesn't put on a hat of common sense when it comes to really degeneracy that we're seeing right now in American society? And that's what liberal politics has kind of driven into, that type of degeneracy. And that's why I honestly believe that Trump may end up winning this election. You know, but don't shoot the messenger. You know, this has been another episode of Media Talks TV. Be sure to subscribe, like, share the video, and tune in for more videos. We got more videos coming. I'll see you guys later.